Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, The Israeli. Today I'm going to respond to a few things Roger Waters, the co-founder of Pink Floyd, which is an awesome band, had to say about the tensions in Israel. Now, for those of you who don't know, Roger Waters is a big anti-Israel pro-Palestinian supporter. And I said the anti-Israel first because that's what's actually leading him. I don't think he really cares about the Palestinians. He cares mostly about himself, but he especially hates Israel and the Israelis. So it's going to be a lot of fun reviewing what he has to say. And let's see. Before I start, just notice his background. He has a flag. He has a poster which has the USA on it, and the US is depicted as a Nazi country. And he's sitting in New York, yeah? He's sitting there in New York with a poster behind him that shows America to be a Nazi country. This guy has no shame. This guy has zero shame, and I'm quite excited to go over what he has to say. Okay, so let's start.
But clearly, in the long term, the Israeli occupation of Palestine is untenable. It is not a future that can possibly survive. Public opinion is changing all over the world at a vastly increasing rate as each year goes by. More and more people are having the blinds taken from their eyes and are understanding that this cannot go on.
So again, I agree with him here. I agree that the situation cannot go on, and time for negotiations should have started a long time ago, and the two-state solution needs to start being talked about again on both the Israeli side and both the Palestinian side, which is not really happening now, but there's always hope that it will happen. There is another option that I will talk about in another video, which is way out there, but it is a possible option, but we'll talk about that in a different video. So Roger Waters is correct in many ways that many people are waking up and their blindfolds are being taken off, and that they see that this is not only Israel's fault, that there's another side to this conflict, and that side should start taking responsibility for its future as well. And Roger Waters knows this because he was one of the head of the BDS movement, which is a movement to boycott Israel everywhere in the world. Israeli businesses, private people that just happen to be Israelis, to boycott them because they're Israelis. He was one of the heads of that group, and that group, you can read about it. That's a pure anti-Semitic group, anti-Jewish, not anti-Israel. They use anti-Israel to hide their anti-Semitism, and you can read about it. BDS. There's a lot of information. Let's continue to see what he says.
This is an apartheid regime.
So, apartheid regime. Again, I want to talk about this as well because I haven't talked about it yet. In the Palestinian territories, that's Palestinian territories. It's conflicted territories. It's still not part of Israel. It's still not Palestine. It's conflicted. In the Gaza Strip, there are no Israelis. Zero Jewish people in the Gaza Strip. Only Gazans, Muslims. Israel withdrew from the Gaza Strip many years ago, and there is no occupation of the Gaza Strip. Now, yes, the borders between Gaza and Israel are closed because, well, we see each other as enemies. But here Roger Waters doesn't talk about the other border that Gaza has with Egypt. Why doesn't Egypt open its borders with Gaza to give them some breathing space? Why doesn't he criticize Egypt for leaving the border closed? Because he is a hypocrite. That's the main reason, because he's a hypocrite. Now, in Israel itself, I don't know which country you guys are watching this video from, but if you're in a Western country, the Muslim majority is at most 6%, like in France. And if you're in a Muslim country, then the Muslim majority is 99%. But in Israel, there's an 18% Arab minority, 18%, with equal rights. They can vote. They can run for the parliament. There are now two Arab parties in the government. There are about 10 more, 12, 15 Arab ministers. um, parliament member, sorry. Yeah, so Israel is not an apartheid state. And Roger Waters has been to Israel, and he knows that. But he'll keep propagating that lie because it sounds good to pro-Palestinian supporters who are anti-Israel, not pro-Palestinian supporters who are not anti-Israel. There are those as well. Yeah, it's okay to be pro-Palestinian as long as you also recognize Israel's right to exist. Let's continue.
Involved in the clearing of all the indigenous people from the land that they eyed before 1948 and that they've been trying to colonize in its entirety since 1948. And they are not going to be allowed to get away with it by global civil society, in my view.
So again, he's saying they're trying. This is a political matter in Israel because everybody knows that annexation of the Palestinian territory is not something that's possible to do. Everybody knows that. They took it as a political point, just like every country had democratic country. Their parties are using political points that they're not feasible in order to advance themselves. The United States said that they will not support the annexation of the West Bank, and every Israeli government said that they will not annexate the West Bank without American support. So you understand what I'm saying, Roger Waters? As long as Biden does not support it, it will not happen. And the parties in Israel know it, and they use it as a political point. But, okay, let's continue.
Again, you'll understand that I have to give Israel's point of view on that.
Okay, we're going to jump
Saudi
a little
Arabia bit. And I can't remember what the others are. But,
yeah.
All right. Well, they are driven in the decisions that they make about whether they will or won't normalize relations with Israel.
He's talking about Saudi Arabia and Arab Emirates and Qatar, Dubai.
Obviously, I think they're making a huge error, any states that do that. But those decisions will be made by the Saudi prince and others who are in the government of the UAE, and they will be doing it for reasons that we're not party to the thought process.
Why do you need to be partied to the thought process of those countries? You are not Saudi Arabian. You don't live there. You are a British person living in New York, apparently. Yeah, that has opinions about everything. Why should you be part of that decision making? I don't understand that. But let's continue.
They will be very pragmatic. And they will probably be to do with money or oil or strategic affairs.
Three great reasons.
They think will, at least in the short term, benefit them personally. I don't have much faith in any of these governments, as you can imagine.
Of course not, but he does have faith in Hamas. He does have faith in Iran. He does have faith, I'm just guessing, maybe I'm wrong here, but in North Korea. I'm sure that he does have faith in the Chinese government. Yeah, interesting.
So, and you talking to me about what some Israeli spokesman is saying about what's going on in Gaza and how that the next thing you'll be telling me is that rockets rained down on Jerusalem, or some equally nonsensical story, which they've been saying the same
nonsensical story. Because obviously seeing videos of rockets being fired from Gaza into Israel is a nonsensical story. Because he doesn't believe videos, hundreds of rockets. I'm not talking about a few, hundreds of rockets. But for Roger Waters, those videos are nonsensical facts, I guess, because they don't serve his narrative. He's very interesting, I have to say. Like, his thought process is extremely interesting.
Thing over and over again. There is nothing. This is not an equal conflict.
Here again with the equal conflict. Yeah, here again with the equal conflict. Let's continue.
This is not. When we're talking about Gaza, we're talking a barrel full of fish, and the Israelis are shooting into it.
So just like Trevor Noah, he's taking all the responsibility away from the Gazans, from the Palestinian people living in Gaza. All the responsibility away. They are fish. At least in Trevor Noah's example, they were children. at least that, children which are still human beings that can think for themselves, still not as adults, but can think for themselves, but at least humans. Roger Waters, they're not even humans, they're fish. They're fish and they're being shot like being shot in a barrel. They have zero responsibility for what they're doing, for their actions. Zero. Amazing.
With hugely efficient weaponry. So they are murdering the inmates of an open prison. That is what they're doing. Some of the inmates of the open prison are trying to fight back in whatever way they can. And occasionally they have resorted to sending homemade rockets across the walls of the prison that contain them.
Occasionally. The only thing Hamas did ever since it came to power in Gaza was two things. First, kill Palestinians in Gaza. Yeah, and if you actually care about Palestinians and you look at reports, you'll see that Hamas is responsible for many, many, many more Palestinian deaths than Israel ever was. Yeah, but Roger Waters doesn't care about that because they're fish in a barrel. Yeah, they're fish in a barrel.
And you can't blame them for that. In fact, they have a moral obligation to resist the occupation.
What occupation? The Israeli army and the settlers went out of Gaza. They're not in there. What occupation?
By a foreign power of their land.
But there's quite a lot of missiles going across, isn't there?
No. Very small numbers. Causing no casualties, none.
Very small numbers, hundreds of rockets. I think over 1,000 now of rockets is a very small number. Yeah. Just like Pink Floyd sold a very small number of records.
As far as we know so far, according to the dribs and drabs of reports that are coming out, and compared with the Israelis going in with F-16s, destroying 20-story residential dwellings, tower blocks filled with families.
No, after making sure that those families are out of those buildings, by sending flyers, phone messages, and everything that's humanly possible to make sure those buildings are empty. Now, I do want to say something about this. I don't know exactly what happened with those buildings and why those buildings were bombed, but I think that if it was for reasons to send a message or to get somebody who was in there from the Hamas leadership, then I personally don't really support it, and I think you can send a message in a different way and you can get a Hamas leader in a different way without blowing down a residential building. But if there were weapons hitting there and if rockets were fired out of those buildings, then that's a different story. But I don't know the exact reason, but if it was for reasons of sending a message or getting some person of interest, then I think they should have done it in a different way. But I can't believe I'm sort of agreeing with Roger here, sort of.
Killing women and children indiscriminately.
Hamas rockets have been proven to kill children in this cycle of violence. It's proven, but again, Roger doesn't care about that. He doesn't.
I mean, there are no two sides to this story. There is the oppressor and there is the oppressed, and they are entirely separate. There is the aggressor and the people.
So you see, as far as Roger Waters is concerned, they're fish in a barrel. They have zero responsibility. They can do whatever they want, and Israel is not allowed to react, to defend itself, or to do anything at all, because they're the aggressors. Yeah?
People that are being
okay, let's continue.
Maybe in the first Intifada, when there were bombings and things, it was a different situation. All the Palestinians of your screen here.
One of the great challenges in this world is knowing enough about a subject to think you're right.
So that was Roger Waters giving his opinion on what is happening in Israel. I want to thank everybody who's watching this. Thank you very much for watching. Again, I got a bit excited here with Roger Waters. He's driving me crazy sometimes, but it was a lot of fun to review what he had to say. If you like this video, please like, share, comment, and please subscribe. And I hope this will get to more people. And please let me know what you think in the comment section. So have a great day. Bye-bye.